Did you know that before Caracas existed, there was already a man whom even the mountain respected? That was not just any Indian, old Tomas told me, spitting on the ground. That was Guaicaipuro, and that name still walks through these lands. I asked him if he was talking about the chief or the spirit. The old man looked at me slowly and replied, "Both, boy." And the fire crackled just when he said that. Guaicaipuro was born at the beginning of the 16th century, when this land still did not know what a foreign master was. And the old man said that without raising his voice much, as if someone else were listening. He was a real chief, not one of pretty words, he said, while the fire pit breathed embers into the night of the town. He ruled the Tex with respect, and with a spear if necessary. He did not shout, he did not beg for obedience. He imposed it just by standing firm. Then the old man added, looking at the dark mountain. When he walked, even the crickets stopped singing. That was his law. When the Spaniards began their ascent through the Tui Valley, the old man said that from that day forward, the land began to slowly sicken, as if it sensed what was coming. He murmured that they brought mirrors, gunpowder, and rotten promises, and that none of it was pure. From the mountaintop, Guaicaipuro gazed at them without moving, still as a living stone. Then he said, "You have no authority here." And his voice, they say, tumbled down the valley. The Spaniards laughed at first, thinking it was just the mountain talking to itself. Later, they learned to fear him. Guaicaipuro did not fight alone, that's what the old man said, while looking at the mountains, as if he could still see shadows moving among the trees. And he told that it was him who united Tiuna, Aramaipuro, Paramaconi, and other chiefs that almost nobody remembers today. Together, they went through impossible paths, set ambushes in the darkness, and burned camps without leaving a trace. The conquerors began to call him the Ghost of the Mountains, because they never knew where the attack was coming from. The old man said that the blow fell when they least expected it, just when they thought they had control. And when it fell completely, without warning, and without mercy. But betrayal also walks barefoot among the villages, and the old man said that with such deep sadness that the fire seemed to lower its flame. He told that one of his own, blinded by trinkets, sold the most sacred secret, the place where Guaicaipuro slept. The Spanish captain, believing that he had finally beaten the mountain, murmured, "Tonight, the war ends." And his voice sounded more like a sentence than a victory. They surrounded the hut in a cold silence, one of those that do not announce anything good. And they say that the whole jungle trembled before the first fire touched the roof, as if the mountain knew what it was going to lose. The Spaniards, believing it was all over, let their guard down too soon. The old man shook his head slowly when he reached that part of the story. Then he murmured, looking at me intently, "That was their mistake, lad." After his death, nothing settled the same again in the mountain, and old Tomas's grandmother swore that since then, the wind sounded different, as if it dragged a lament among the trees. People began to see armed shadows walking high on the hills when night fell. "Guaicaipuro is raging," they said out loud, looking over their shoulders. Nobody laughed, nobody doubted it. Fear no longer came running in, it came in slowly. Because something had not left. Something had stayed awake. Over the years, his name was no longer spoken only as a story. People started asking him for help without realizing it, the old man explained, adjusting his hat. First as a memory, then as strength, then as protection. "Chief, watch over my road," the muleteers said under the moon. "Chief, protect my house," the women prayed with small candles. And so, without altar or permission, he stopped being just a dead man. Over the years, the name of Guaicaipuro stopped sounding like just an old tale, and the mountain itself began to carry it from mouth to mouth, like a whisper that does not fall silent. The old man said that people began to ask him for help without realizing it, almost without thinking, like someone who talks to themselves in the middle of fear. First they named him out of habit, then out of necessity, and later out of pure faith. Under the moon, the muleteers murmured, "Chief, watch over my road!" while they quickened their pace. In the houses, the women prayed with small candles, "Chief, protect my door." And so, without church, without altar, and without anyone's permission, Guaicaipuro stopped being just a dead man and began to be a presence. Over time, that presence began to be felt on the very paths where people left promises and fears. It was not just the chief watching over doors and trails, it was the whole mountain responding. The places where Guaicaipuro was named began to coincide with waters, caves, and hills where something older seemed to awaken. Popular faith did not separate those forces. It slowly brought them together, like someone who understands that a single voice is not enough to guard the invisible. Thus, while the name of the chief kept walking among low prayers, the mountain began to claim a queen. And it was then that the figure of Maria Leonza began to take shape in the same faith that had kept the warrior alive. She was not born a saint, she was born queen of the mountain, the old man said, pointing to Sorte. The story says that she was a young woman marked by the mountain, by the water, and by mystery. People began to bring her offerings without knowing why. First it was simple faith, then it became a ritual, and without realizing it, the people raised a cult without books. That is how Maria Leonza was born, among prayers without church and promises without altar. And it was then, when the mountain was already awake, that another presence began to be felt. "It was not a woman, it was war," said a medium, shaking all over. In the middle of the portals, someone shouted, "That is Guaicaipuro! I felt him!" He no longer came as a memory, he came as strength, and when Maria Leonza opened the paths, he crossed as a guardian. That is how he stopped being just a chief, and began to be a power. One day, in the middle of the portal, a young woman collapsed, trembling like a leaf in a strong wind. "He arrived! He has arrived!" she managed to shout before losing her strength. When she woke up, her eyes were full of tears, and her voice was broken. "It was Guaicaipuro, and he did not come alone," she whispered, looking at the ground. They say that behind Maria Leonza, a hard, silent, immense presence was felt. And the medium declared in a low voice, "He is no longer just a chief. He is power." Since then, Guaicaipuro became one of the great spiritual guardians. "He does not come to give caresses, he comes to give order," said an old medium. When he comes down, the atmosphere becomes heavy and stern. He does not talk much, but when he speaks, it weighs. "Respect what you are asking for," he once said to a reckless man. And the reckless man never returned. And it was not only the chief who began to be felt in those works and promises. Over time, the faith of the people called another name, one born from the whip, from sweat, and from contained rage. Negro Felipe appeared as forces appear that no one invites, but everyone needs, strong, direct, without evasions. He represented the slave, the laborer, the beaten man who learned to resist without surrendering. Thus, popular faith began to place balance, the queen of the mountain to rule, the chief to defend, and the strength of the people to push. Nobody sat them together at a table. It was the people themselves who brought them together in their prayers. And since then, when one speaks of complete protection, one speaks of those three, because separately they help, but together they sustain what cannot be seen. In the portals, when they call him, nobody moves. "He comes down with war," the mediums say. A heavy, almost hot wind is felt. "The chief has arrived," someone always murmurs, and silence falls like a sheet, because when he enters, nobody plays. "If you are going to ask me, ask with courage," they say. He speaks through the mediums. He does not shelter the lazy or the deceitful. He does not protect dirty revenge. He protects what is just, even if it hurts. "If you want a way out, first cross the fear," he demands. And many times fear is fiercer than any enemy. There are people who claim to have seen him in dreams before great misfortunes. "He stood next to my bed and did not speak," a woman said, crying. A month later, she lost her house, but she saved her life. "He knocked everything down except the future," she said afterwards. "Because that is how Guaicaipuro is. He knocks you down so you can get up different." Others claim that he still walks through the hills when there are bad moons. "I heard footsteps when I was alone," a muleteer swore. No one wanted to accompany him afterward. The mountain does not always show what it is, but it feels who enters. And Guaicaipuro still enters, not as a man but as a guardian. He does not accept empty promises or candles without faith. You do not play with him, everyone repeats. If you offer, you fulfill. If you ask, you endure. Because his energy is not for the curious. It is for those who are truly willing to change something in their life, sometimes for good, sometimes by force. He is not evil, but he is not gentle either, said the village healer. He does not punish out of pleasure, he punishes out of law. He does not protect out of pity, he protects out of justice. His morals are as ancient as the earth. He does not respond to modern comfort, he responds to the old order of the mountain. That is why many fear him, but they respect him even more. Because he never lies, he never promises what he cannot fulfill, and he never abandons the one he himself accepts to protect. If Guaicaipuro takes you, he does not let you go, the old man said. And that is not always rest, sometimes it is a test. Many come broken to ask him for help. Chief, I can't take it anymore, they say through tears. And the answer is not always sweet. Sometimes they lose their job, their partner, their safe zone. But they also lose their chains, because he works by removing what gets in the way, even if it hurts to tear it out. No one imagines him dressed as a saint. He always appears as an indigenous chief, with a spear, firm. He does not smile much. He does not bow. He does not ask for permission. He does not come to please. He comes to bring order, everyone says. And when he brings order, it is felt even in the bones. Maria Leonza opens the paths. Negro Felipe mobilizes the people. Guaicaipuro guards the territory. That is how the elders explain it. 3 different forces, one same balance. None rules over the other. Each one fulfills their function, and the chief continues to be a guardian of war and protection. Even though centuries have passed, Guaicaipuro has not become weak. On the contrary, they say that his energy grows with the problems of the people. As long as there is struggle, he walks. As long as there is injustice, he watches. And as long as someone honors his name with respect, he responds. Some spirits wear out over time. Guaicaipuro does not. Because he does not feed only on faith. He feeds on the memory of the people. He feeds on unresolved pain. He feeds on the rebellion that never goes out. That is why he is still awake. Young people think all this is just a story. Those are old folks' tales, they say laughing. But those who have seen someone lose their voice, tremble and speak with a strength that was not theirs, do not make fun of it. They stay serious, with their skin bristling. Because they know that something happened there that is not easily explained. There are things that are not told out loud. They are carried inside. Like a mark. Guaicaipuro no longer fights with a metal sword. He fights with spiritual strength. He does not bring down bodies, he brings down misplaced destinies. He does not burn huts, he burns lies. He does not ambush armies, he ambushes twisted paths. Because the war is different now. But it is still war. Not everyone who calls him is ready to feel him. Some get dizzy, others cry, others tremble without knowing why. He does not enter softly, repeat the elders who have seen things. His energy is that of a chief, not of easy comfort. And for that very reason, whoever endures him comes out changed, not the same, never the same. He is not an angel, he is not a demon, he is not a god. He is a spiritual chief. He is living ancestral force. He is will without a body. He is memory that does not die. That is why his name keeps passing from mouth to mouth, with respect, with fear, with faith. The man fell betrayed one night. The power rose centuries later without asking permission. Guaicaipuro died as a warrior. Guaicaipuro was born again as a guardian spirit. And that second birth had no fire or blood. It had faith. It had people. So when someone today lights a candle and says his name in a low voice, they are not calling a dead man. They are calling a living force, an ancient guardian, a will that does not surrender. Because there are names that are not buried, they are inherited. And if this story shook you even a little, don't leave yet. Here we don't just tell stories, here memories are awakened before blowing on the embers of the fire. Subscribe. Come back and listen to the ones you haven't been told yet. Because there are names that respond when they are remembered, and this channel is just beginning to call them.